Again, this is Mr. VTAC, and we are looking at Topic 7, Lesson 8, Volume with Fractional Edge Lengths. And we will hop right on in. So a quick review of how to find volume is you take the base, multiply the width, and multiply by the height. All right, so you have those three important measurements on whatever that structure, that box, whatever it is. You're going to be using those each time. So for example, here we have 8, we have 5, and we have 4 as the base, the width, and the height. So I'm just going to take 5 times 4. It seems to be the easiest one for me, although all these are pretty easy, but 5 times 4 is going to give me the 20. Then I'm going to multiply by 8. 8 times 2 is 16 with that 0 there to make it 160 centimeters. And of course, it is cubed. Right? So remember, we're looking at this as all these cubes making up this entire structure. I know this isn't super accurate or beautiful looking, but that's the idea. Remember how many cubes, 1 by 1 cubes fit in there. All right, so that's just a really quick review of the formula. Now, when we are working in the real world or on tougher quizzes and worksheets, but mostly in the real world, our measurements are not going to be exactly whole numbers. It's very rarely going to happen. So if I'm trying to figure out if a piece of furniture is going to fit in a certain spot in my house, I can't just be like, oh, it's about 3 or it's about 10. I'll just cut off that fraction or decimal just because it's tougher to work with. You need to make sure you're including that. So you can see here with Mr. Pooler's Box O Magic, each measurement is not a perfect round number, right? We have 3.5 feet here as the base. We have 2.5 feet here as the width. And we have 2.5 feet here as the height. So the good thing for this is we're still going to use that same formula for volume, base times width times height. And it just takes a little bit longer because we're working with fractions, right? So this is why it's important to still have those skills that we've been working on and learning. So if you remember how to multiply fractions, which you all should, this should be no sweat, just a little bit longer just because the math takes a little bit longer. So let's just start with the base times the width. So 3.5 multiplied by 2.5. So this process is still the same. So we're going to do 3.5 times 2. Oops, let's make that a little bigger. 2.5. Right, and that's going to give us our first math problem. Now, to multiply mixed numbers, you need to turn them into improper fractions. So let's start with 3.5 as an improper fraction. So we're going to take this 2 and multiply by this 3, which will give us 6. And then we will add on this 1, which will give us 7. And we'll keep it over the denominator of 2. All right, so now we have 3.5 is now 7 over 2. Same thing with 2.5. So we have 2.5. We'll take this 2 right here, multiply it by this 2 right here is 4. We'll add this 1 here, which is 5. And it will stay over the denominator of 2. So 5 and 5 halves, or 5 over 2, is the 2.5. So now, if we go back to our original problem, 3.5 times 2.5 is the exact same thing as 7 halves times 5 halves, or 7 over 2 times 5 over 2. And we will just multiply straight across, as we always do with fractions. So 7 times 5 is 35. 2 times 2 is 4. So now, big thing is we have to remember we are not done yet. A lot of times when you do a decent amount of math, that was a decent amount, it's easy to forget that you still have more to do. So we just took this number and multiplied by this number. So we did the base times the width. We still have this height to work with over here. So our height is over here, 2.5. So now we need to multiply this number by 2.5. Now I didn't change this back to a mixed number yet because then I still need to multiply it by this. So I'm going to keep 35 over 4 as is because now I'm going to multiply by 2.5. So now I'm going to set up 35 over 4 times 2.5. So now I need to change this into an improper fraction. Now, lucky for us, we already did it way over here on the left side of the screen. 2.5 is 5/2. So I don't need to go through that work again. I am running out of room. I think I can fit it in over here, squeeze it in. So 35/4. Remember, that's the result of these multiplied by each other. And I'm going to multiply that by 5/2, because that's what 2.5 is as an improper fraction. And I'm just going to multiply that out and see what I get. So 35 times 5, let's move it over here. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 3 is 15, 17, 175. So I have 175 in my numerator, and 4 times 2 is 8 in my denominator. Now, the last step is, I'm going to move myself here to give myself some room. The last step is to, where did my marker go? There it is. The last step is I need to change this back into a mixed number. All right, so no one wants to know that the volume of Mr. Pooler's box of magic is 175/8 feet cubed. All right, so the way we do that, again, is we need to simplify. There's nothing I see instantly, but 175 divided by 8 is what I need to do. 175 divided by 8 goes into 17 twice. 8 into 15 just once. And now, since we're working with fractions, I don't need to keep bringing zeros down at a decimal point, so I just have 21 and 7/8. I keep that denominator. So 21 and 7/8 with our label feet cubed. Right, and that would be our final answer. So you can see there is a lot of work that's going on, and of course I did some that maybe you can do quicker, or you won't be adding all these circles and arrows and all that. But you can see that our process is a straightforward one, but it does take a little bit of computation. So just reviewing, we took, I'll pick a different color, we took our base, multiplied it by our height. We had to turn those into improper fractions. That's what we did right over here. So we turn those into improper fractions to multiply them and get our answer. Then we had to take our final measurement, our height, and multiply that by what we got right here. And we did that right here. And again, we changed this number into an improper fraction. So we had two improper fractions multiplied by each other to get our final answer, but we just had to simplify that way down here into a nice looking mixed number. All right, so a lot of markings, a lot of work, but again, it only took a few minutes just going step by step. So we'll do one more example, then we'll be all set. So we have this beautiful looking house, storage, barn, whatever this might be. And I'm going to get back to black here. And we have some measurements. You can see these are fractional as well. So fractional does not necessarily mean it has to be a fraction. So fractional just means it's not quite a whole. So we have 25.4, 25 and 4/10. We have 12 and 8/10. We have 20 and 2/10. So these are not whole numbers, but this is something that could happen. So we're working with yards this time. We're still going to do the same thing with the volume equals base times width times height. And again, you could go in any order as long as you multiply those three by each other. So you might do 12.8 times 20 or 20 times 25.4, whatever it is, just make sure you do all three of them. So we're just going to start here on this right side. We'll go base times height first. So with decimals, it's a little quicker than fractions just because you don't have to go through the process of converting them from improper to proper and mixed numbers. So let's take 20.2 or 20 and 2/10 and multiply it by 12.8 or 12 and 8/10. All right, and we've done decimal multiplication before, so it's just like regular, ignore the decimals at first. So 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 0 is 0, and that 1. 8 times 2 again is 16. Let's get our placeholder 0 there. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. And then let's get two placeholders. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. Add those all together. Still haven't done anything with the decimal, which is good. 6. 4 plus 1 is 4. 6 plus 2 is 8. 4 plus 1 is 4. And we have 2. Now we can go up to our decimal right up here. Let's count over 1, 2. So now we got to go down here and move over to the left 2 spots. So now we have 200. Oops, that's a 4. 248.46 or 46 hundredths yards cubed. Yes, I'm done. But wait, again, this is the where some people can forget. It took us a little bit to do that, right? 3-digit by 3-digit number, multiplying, walking through it, get an answer. But again, that was only doing this part so far. We need to continue and multiply by this. So that's going to be our final step. So let's do it right up here. I think I can probably fit it. Here, how about I zoom in a little bit and then write a little smaller. So we have 25.4 times 248.46. So 248.46 multiplied by 25.4. 25.4. Now remember, I don't need to line up decimals when multiplying. So my decimal is right here in this number, and it's right here in this number. That is perfectly fine. So let's go through this whole thing. 4 times 6, and I'm not going to talk through every single one. Maybe I will. 4 times 6 is, whoops, sorry. Messed that up. That's what's nice about the undo button, is 24. 4 times 4 is 16, 18. 4 times 8, 32, 33. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 is 19, and 4 times 2, 8, and whoops, 9. All right, so 0 for the placeholder. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 3 is 23. 5 times 8 is 40, plus the 2 is 42. 5 times 4 is 20, plus the 4 is 24. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 2 is 12. 2 placeholders. Now, 2 times 6, this one will go a little quicker. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 4 is 8. With the 1 is 9. To not give myself too much to put what I'm carrying over here. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, so you can see I did not give myself the best spot to work here as I was running out of room up here. So hopefully I didn't make a mistake. If I did and you noticed, just let me know. But now I'm going to add these up. Still ignoring the decimals. So 4, 8, 8, 18, 20, 11, 4, 15, 21, 9, 13, 6, 3. All right, so we have this nice big number. So now we'll move the decimal over 1, 2 spots and 1 spot or places, and then so that's a total of 3. So 1, 2, 3. So we have our final answer. Oops. Of 6,310.884, and our label is yards cubed. All right, so yes, that was a large number, a lot of work here with our multiplication. It was just 2 multiplication problems. So going over again, we did these 2 numbers. I'll pick a better color. So we did these 2 numbers multiplied by each other, got our answer right here, and then we multiplied by this number and got our answer right here. All right, so it could take a little bit with the fractional pieces, but the process is still the same. So good luck. Work through that. Make sure you're putting in the actual work. As you can see, it can take a little bit for a number to get something as large as this, but you all know the steps. You know how to multiply decimals. You know how to multiply by fractions. You know the formula. So just take your time with it. So you can see even I took my time on this problem as well. So hopefully I didn't make any mistakes there, but you get the idea either way of the process, and good luck on your work. Bye.